Next up, Dalton, is the most underrated team in college football. That is the Arizona Wildcats. And we'll get into why they're so underrated in just a second. But man, they had an unbelievable season last year. They entered the year, Dalton, with a preseason win total of 5.5, and they went 10-3 after 5 straight losing seasons. Also, Jaden DeLora, who opened the year as a starting quarterback, went down with an ankle injury in the 4th game of the season, which led to redshirt freshman Noah Fafita taking the reins, and they went 10-3, like I said, their best record in the 21st century, winning the Alamo Bowl as well. Now they enter the Big 12. New head coach in Brent Brennan coming in from San Jose State because Jedd Fisch left to become the Washington head coach. But despite that coaching change, Dawn, I think both of us agree this is one of the top contenders, if not the top contender, to win the Big 12 because they have multiple star players returning to that program, including a pair that's been playing together since middle school, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Two guys have known each other forever, have played together forever, and that's Noah Fafita and Tetairoa McMillan at quarterback and receiver, man. Look, these two guys are prime time. They are highlight reel. They are the reason to watch the Arizona Wildcats. McMillan is arguably the best receiver in the country. Fafita and what he did coming off the bench and then improving down the stretch last year and giving this team the quarterback and stability at the position that it really needed. These two guys were the biggest reason that Arizona won 10 games, beat Oklahoma in their bowl game, all of that stuff. It's a primetime connection. It really is. And you can tell the chemistry from being around each other so long, the talent from both of them. And you couldn't get two more different guys, right? Fafita at 5'8", throwing the ball to a guy who's 6'5", and absolute looks like to me like a Mike Evans clone out there at receiver. They're so much fun to watch, and they're super talented, and they are the most dangerous quarterback receiver pair in the Big 12, I think.
Don, I don't know if you saw, but Trevor Sikkema put out a really good article about his 10 early takeaways in the 2025 NFL Draft. He actually stole the Mike Evans comp from you. He's like, as a guy who's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, he never throws that comp around. He's like, no, I think McMillan actually might deserve that comp. So shout out to you for starting that, because Trevor Sikkema was all over that as well. The biggest weakness, though, I would probably say, is this pass rush. Now, look, they did completely rebuild the defensive line in the transfer portal, but I still think they could struggle getting after the quarterback. Of their 4 projected starters at D tackle and edge defender, 2 of them earned pass rushing grades below a 60 last year, while all 4 earned pass rushing grades below a 75 mark as well. So I don't think the pass rush is going to be as dominant. Now, they do have a really, really good secondary, and we'll get into one of their stars in the secondary in just a second. But I do think the pass rush is probably the biggest weakness I'd go with on the Wildcats right now. But Dalton, tell me more about Noah Fafita and Tetairoa McMillan as of right now, as you know, obviously the 2 stars, and basically as far as those 2 go, Arizona will go this year.
Yeah, and you have to love these 2 guys, right? We'll start with Fafita. And coming off the bench early on for Jedd Fisch when Jaden DeLora got hurt, he was just efficient, and he ran everything within structure, and he's so darned accurate, right? And he's only, he's listed at 5'10". He looks smaller than that. Whatever works, man. This guy makes plays almost in the same style that Bryce Young used to for Alabama. He's super accurate. The one thing I would say is early in the year, he was a bit conservative. Through week 10, he had the 4th lowest average depth of target in the country. But what gives me the most hope and what could have him as a dark horse Heisman candidate is his last 4 games throwing beyond 10 yards got a lot better, right? I think it was in the same neighborhood actually as like a Caleb Williams or a Carson Beck throwing beyond 10 yards, right? So when you're talking about those type of Heisman level names, Noah Fafita could work himself into that class, and he's really mobile, right? And I like that he's small, but he protects himself when he's running the football. He can improvise and throw. He can improvise and run. He can make people miss. Look, do not be fooled by Fafita's size, and maybe he's got a decent arm at his size, right? He's not going to have the Josh Allen cannon at 5'10" and a $190 or whatever, but he's just a playmaker, and he's really heady, and he's really accurate. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier to be that accurate when you've got a 6'5", 220-pound monster outside who can run, man. Tetairoa McMillan is undeniably one of the 2 best receivers in the country, and in some opinions, and maybe even mine by the end of it all, he might be the best receiver in the country. He doesn't move. He's not one of those 6'5" jump ball guys, say even like a Johnny Wilson where he's just going up getting rebounds. This guy can move different than normal people at 6'5", right? And to me, I was watching his game last year, and I told you this towards the end of the season. You just mentioned it. in routes and crossing routes and after the catch stuff, I'm like, man, the more I watch this guy, the more he looks like Mike Evans. And I know that's such a hefty comp to put on it. And I don't know that he's going to have 10 or 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL, right? Mike Evans is doing what we thought might have been impossible, right? Busting up Jerry Rice records and things. But McMillan is built like that. He plays like that. And you mentioned it, the chemistry that these two have had since middle school. I don't see this pair dropping off at all in production this year. They're two of the best players at their positions in the country.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, played in middle school together, played in high school together. Now they're playing in college together. It's such a cool story. And not only that, but they're two superstars, too, which makes it even cooler. Let's go to the defensive spot of the ball, though, Dalton. With the guy who listen, we said this before. There are certain teams that have two players at separate positions. And you're like, man, all I need to know about their NFL evaluation is just the practice tape, right? This is one of them with Tacario Davis against Tetairoa McMillan, guys like Derek Stingley versus Jamar Chase, Kayvon Thibodeau against Penei Sewell. This is one of those as well because Tacario Davis, normal corners aren't big enough to match up with Tetairoa McMillan, but Tacario Davis is. He's actually one of the few in the country that can match up with them, and Arizona's lucky enough that they only have to go up against him in practice, man. 6'4". That is massive for a corner, and that length allows him to significantly bother receivers at the catch point. Had a 27.8% forced incompletion rate last year, which was 5th among Power 5 corners. In single coverage, Dalton, he had more forced incompletions than he allowed catches. He had 14 forced incompletions and 11 allowed catches in single coverage. Moves so well for a corner his size. It's a lot like, it's basically just Tetairoa McMillan at corner, basically, is the comp I have for Tacario Davis right now. I think you throw out the comp of Tariq Woolen. I think that fits perfectly for Tacario Davis as one. I even think Davis is further along in his development than Woolen was coming out of UTSA as well. So I think Tacario Davis is a top 5 corner in the country and could be a top 15 pick in what right now is a loaded cornerback class in the 2025 NFL Draft. Davis, I think, will be one of the top guys next year, and I think both he and McMillan will be top 15 picks probably in next year's draft. Dalton, I said it before, this is the most underrated team in college football, in our opinion, because I think both of us are going to say that Arizona might be able to win the Big 12 Conference. Are you going to put that down right now, and you think the Wildcats will end up Big 12 champions this year, or what do you think about their bottom line right now?
I would fully expect them to at least make the title game. I think you've got too much high-end talent on this team not to think so, and I think Fafita is one of the 2, maybe 3 best quarterbacks in the Big 12. I think the top 3 quarterbacks in the Big 12 pretty obvious, right? Fafita and Shedeur Sanders and Jalen Daniels in some order if he's healthy.
Ooh, not Garrett Green?
You have – say again?
Garrett Green? Not our guy?
Well, Garrett Green's up there too. He's got some flaws to work on, and he's up there too. I'll tell you. I forget it. Even I sleep on West Virginia, but Fafita certainly, and we have Fafita ahead of Garrett Green anyway, right? So you're talking about, but there's not like a ton of teams that have elite quarterbacks, right? Those are probably the big 4. Let's call them the big 4. But when you have one of those guys, it should be a huge advantage. I would expect Arizona to be in the inner circle. If their over/under is still sitting at 7.5, that's a travesty. I'm just being
still
real.
Is.
They won 10 games last year in a tougher conference. I think when you talk about such a loaded Pac-12 last year, and Arizona, they have, I think it's week 3 and 4, Kansas State and Utah back to back.
Yep.
If they start 4-0, they may go 12-0 max because their schedule on the back end is really, really favorable.
Yeah, they play Arizona on September 13th, and they actually have a week off, and then they play Utah again. So they actually have a bye week in between that, which is very, very good for them. Dalton, I'm looking at this right now. You look at the Big 12 odds right now. Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, UCF, Kansas, Iowa State, and then Arizona. They have the 7th best odds to win that conference. That is insanity. Like, what are we talking about with Arizona right now, man? 7.5 win total for this Wildcats. Again, they went 10-3 last year in a more difficult conference, by the way. Pac-12 is better than what the Big 12 is right now. So that makes no sense. Dawn, find me 5 losses on the schedule. Ready? New Mexico, Northern Arizona, Kansas State, Utah, Texas Tech, BYU, Colorado, West Virginia, UCF, Houston, TCU, Arizona State. If they go 7-5 with that schedule, that is a freaking disaster, man. I don't understand.
That's 7's the floor there. You're implying that basically they lose all the games to all the good teams, right? K-State, Utah, West Virginia, yeah, you're just implying that they lost every big game, all of them. And I just have a hard time believing you could sell me on 9 or 10, but it would be hard at 7-5 just to think a team with their talent, the quarterback and McMillan, that they're going only 7-5. I think that 7.5 mark that's out there right now, that's the floor. I don't know how they go under that. I really don't.
Hold on, 30, 33. They have the 36th best odds to make the college football playoff. 36th.
Whoa. I don't get. I got nothing.
Dude.
There's just still. Apparently, they don't believe after last year and getting raging hot. And what did they win their last 8 games?
Yeah.
Was it? I mean, just no. The only thing they have on that is a first-year head coach.
Exactly.
That's all they have on that.
And as a Syracuse fan, Dino Babers' offensive coordinator scares me a little bit as well. I'll say that. But other than that, it's like, man, they're 10-1 to make the playoff. They have a 7. If you're a betting man, if you're like, okay, I don't think they're winning the Big 12. I don't think they're making the playoff. At least, please bet over 7.5. That is, it makes no freaking sense, dude. That one to me is the bet of the year, in my opinion, is Arizona over 7.5. But yeah, man, that conference championship winner as well. They are plus 1,200 to win the Big 12, which again is the 7th bet. They're saying they're like an average Big 12 team. I don't get it, dude. So you're picking them to win the conference, right?
I'm leaning that way. I'll make it official in the next couple weeks, but that's the way I'd be leaning. Yeah.
Same. I am going to pick Arizona to win the Big 12. You have a top 10 quarterback in the country, no Fafita. At least a top 2 receiver in Tetro McMillan. We even mentioned this guy. Potential first-round offensive tackle in Jonas Savaiinea as well. I know they lost Jordan Morgan, but Jonas Savaiinea is a really, really good player. You got Takaro Davis, who we mentioned before, as a first-round corner. A really good secondary outside of Takaro Davis, too. And what's a wide-open Big 12, man? I don't understand how you think they're like an average team in the Big 12. I think this is the best team in the Big 12. They're my conference champion pick. And, again, if you're a betting man, I would hammer over 7.5, hammer the plus 1,200 to win the Big 12, and hammer the plus 1,000 to make the playoff. Because with that schedule, too, man, I think they're like, I would have set the win total at 9.5, and I probably still would have taken the over on 9.5. So the fact that it's at 7.5 is nuts to me. So again, Arizona, buy the hype, man. Not even the hype. There is no hype with Arizona right now, but buy into them, man, as the most underrated team in the country, and we are all in on the Wildcats heading into 2024. Hey, thanks for watching the PFF College Football Show. Before I let you go, though, we have an unbelievable deal for you guys right now. If you use the code CFB25, you get 25% off your PFF Plus annual subscription. We've got the 2024 College Football Preview Guide that you can find over at pff.com, featuring the best players in the country from all 70 Power 5 teams, plus 10 Group of 5 teams that have the best chance at making the college football playoff as well. You can also gain access to NCAA premium stats for historical games, teams, and player tracking dating all the way back to 2014, so the last decade or so of college football. All the stats you can hope for, you can find in PFF Premium as well. Also, you can be the GM of your favorite NFL team with our unbelievable mock draft simulator, where you can draft up to 7 rounds of players for your NFL team. And if you want to dominate your fantasy league, you can do that as well using the best fantasy tools on the planet. All of that and more with your PFF Plus annual subscription, which you can find for 25% off right now with the code you can find in the description. Or if you want to go to subscribe.pff.com and use the code CFB25 at checkout. Again, you get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription. This won't last forever, so make sure you take advantage of it right now.